there, everybody. Hopping on this live stream just for a few minutes. It is 5 o'clock. We have a newscast starting in about an hour, but I know a lot of people are wanting an update for that. So we're going to go over some things here in just a minute. We'll give some people a second to hop on here. Let me make sure this is working before I get started. Okay, looks like we are good to go. Let me make sure this is good. Okay. Alright, we'll give people a few more minutes to hop on here. I don't want to get started and people miss some things that they might want to hear. Alright, we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Alright, here we go. Alright, good evening, everybody. Hope you've had a good day so far. You know, the weather has been pretty quiet for the first half of our day, and we just don't want to be fooled by that. So I know the weather has been nice for, you know, most of us, all of us, for the majority of the day, and so that may be a little misleading. So we'll kind of get into that here in just a minute. Right now we do have tornado watches gradually creeping into that area. Oh, there we go. There goes that watch being issued for Mobile and Baldwin counties. So Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, Walton counties, all you guys will be included in that probably here shortly. So that threat is increasing for us and will continue to increase as we head into the next couple of hours. So if we zoom out here, we can see there are several warnings already issued. Those little boxes in red, those are tornado warnings that are being issued right now. So we're seeing this pretty significant event unfold. And again, our day has really not been bad. It's been breezy, but it has been dry. We've seen some sunshine. But I do want to emphasize those dry and sunny conditions that we kind of have seen today will just only make our environment even more prime for severe weather development as we head into the later part of our evening and we start to see the real meat of those storms move into the area. So again, right now, it is nice and dry out there. Some of you, comments that I've seen are, where are these storms? Oh, everyone's been talking about these storms. Where are the storms? Here they are, right back to our west. Look at that mess of weather that is set to move into our area over the next few hours. We're seeing numerous tornado warnings associated with this line of storms. I should have turned the lightning toggle off so you can see a little bit better, but nonetheless, we can see just how severe these storms are, and these storms are producing extremely dangerous, long-track, violent tornadoes. Some of the warnings that have been issued have been particularly dangerous situation tornado warnings. So if you see a watch or warning, it has PDS in front of it, just take that as that's bad. Particularly dangerous situation just means exactly what it says. PDS, particularly dangerous. Dangerous is the key word there. So, again, these storms are producing extremely dangerous tornadoes, and our environment is just as prime as those further north of us to support the development for that as these storms do make their way into our area. We are starting to see a few isolated showers and storms move into portions of our western and northern part of our area, there in northern Mobile County, in our northern Alabama counties, as well as back in Mississippi. But right now, northwest Florida, we are seeing dry conditions for the most part, but we just had that tornado watch issued in Mobile and Baldwin counties that will be expanding east as we head into the next several hours. So there it is again. That's a little bit better view without all those lightning strikes in there, but we can see all of those bright red boxes indicate tornado warnings. I was actually just looking at some coverage from our sister station in Birmingham, and they are tracking what is a very dangerous large tornado there in their area. And so that is the threat that we are dealing with as we go into the next several hours. This line of storms that we're looking at right here on radar, that's what we are watching for. So this risk that has been issued, we have been talking about this risk since this time last week. I mean, the SPC put this out 7 days in advance that we knew that we were going to have some type of severe weather. But as the week went on, the threat just got higher and higher. We had this high risk issue, the area in purple, that's where we're seeing those really severe storms break out We've seen that break out all across through Mississippi today. Mississippi also had an earthquake in the midst of all of those storms and those tornado warnings that were just spread across the state all day long today. So just a really serious situation unfolding, and it will continue to do that throughout the evening and into the overnight hours as it moves through Alabama, Northwest Florida, and into Georgia. So, while most of our area is in the red, that does not downplay our threat any more than those highlighted in purple. I want to emphasize that just because, our threat is a little bit lower, our atmosphere is still just as primed to support that tornado development as we go into the evening. So when we talk about a level 4 risk, we're talking about widespread, long-lived, intense storms. A lot of people have asked me today, what does the red mean? What does the purple mean? Here's a little visual of kind of how, the scale lays out. So again, level 4, moderate risk, widespread, long-lived, intense storms. Strong tornadoes, widespread damage, large hail, winds up to 70 plus miles per hour. All of those things are in the cards, and that's exactly what we have seen with this system. Even last night when it went through Missouri and Arkansas, unfortunately, several people lost their lives as a result of the storm system. So we have to take this threat very seriously no matter what happens. So again, tornadoes, large hail, gusty winds, and even localized flooding are all threats that we will be dealing with this evening. Sorry that my camera shot there is covering up that important part of the graphic, but when we talk about tornadoes, we're not talking about those quick spinners that are weak and don't last long and, maybe rip off some shingles of the roof. No, we're talking about strong EF2 or greater, so we're talking EF3, 4, 5 tornadoes, long track. We're not talking about the spin-ups, we're talking about ones that stay on the ground for half an hour, up to an hour. Talking, a very long time on the ground and moving through, several miles. Hail up to about 2 inches in diameter possible. Winds 70 plus miles per hour, all possible within storms. And let's not downplay that wind threat. So, regardless if we see a tornado or not, that wind threat is still pretty significant. I mean, we've seen those gusty winds all day long. If you've been outside at all today, driven around, it's pretty breezy out there. So if we're seeing winds like that even now, within any storms that develop that get stronger, we could certainly see some pretty significant wind gusts. So don't want to downplay that risk either. All right, so let's look at our futurecast and time this out a little bit better. So going into about the next hour, let's see, it is almost 5:10 right now. Into the next hour, we could start to see some isolated shower and storm activity start to bubble up ahead of that main line of storms. So we kind of see that here. Those little storms that are forming ahead of that line also have that potential to get strong and produce those tornadoes. That's where we could see that discrete cell development that has that potential to produce those really strong long track tornadoes. So we cannot downplay that threat either as we go into the next hour or so. So here shortly it could start to get pretty active across the area. So that just continues into the later part of the evening after the sun goes down, and that also just kind of makes our threat even more dangerous. A nocturnal tornado event is the ones that are always the most dangerous because you can't see. A lot of people go to bed before the threat is over, all the things. So throughout the evening, we continue to see that 9:30, there's a look there that really starts to move into Mobile and Baldwin counties, making its way into Escandia, passing there, and we kind of start to see that ramp up a little bit even as we go into the later part of the evening. So that's when we see that severe threat really start to elevate. And that's where we can continue to see that supercell development, those cells that produce those damaging, strong tornadoes, as well as those damaging wind gusts and hail. All of those things are in the cards. So we will be dealing with that threat, through about midnight into the overnight. So this will be a pretty long duration event. So this severe threat really we won't really completely be out of the woods with this until about, 2, 3 a.m. into the overnight hours. And that will be ending from east to west. I'm not saying it's going to be storming at your house all the way from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that that's how long it will take for the threat to begin and end and completely move out of our area. So like obviously for areas back further west, that threat will end for you before maybe Walton County. So, Mobile County will see storms in well before Walton County does, if that kind of makes sense. And I'm also not saying that it's going to tornado at your house. Tornadoes are isolated, and the probability of it hitting an exact location at a certain time is impossible to, forecast. But what we're saying is that the threat is there. Any storms that do get fired up this evening have the potential to produce strong tornadoes. And so it has been, dry, kind of sunny all day long, and that is kind of not what we wanted to see. This morning, if we would have seen, maybe cloudier conditions or even a little bit of rain, that would have been great, because that would have helped limit our severe threat as we go into the evening. But unfortunately, that's just not kind of how it played out. So I want to emphasize that the atmosphere is perfectly primed to support this kind of development as far as severe storms go. I want to say the wording in the discussion from the National Weather Service in Mobile this afternoon, it said that the ingredients in the atmosphere were beyond bonkers. So we'll just leave it at that. So very dangerous, significant event playing out right now, and we will be dealing with that same threat as the day goes on. So that PDS tornado watch will not include Mobile, Baldwin, Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, Walton counties. It will not include any of our coastal counties. It also will not include Escambia County, Alabama, and it will not include, let me make sure I've got this right. It will not include Covington County, Crenshaw County. So all of those counties will be left out of that PDS tornado watch, but I do want to emphasize that even if you are not in that PDS watch, you still will have the same potential as those who maybe are included in it. You still see a tornado warning in your area at any point as you head into the rest of the evening. And I will also say that coverage for coastal zones is not expected to be as numerous or widespread as those maybe further north or further back to the west. But again, we just can't downplay that risk, because no matter where you are, the environment everywhere, no matter what level threat that you are in, that chance is still there to support that development for strong, long track, damaging, violent, all words, tornadoes. So the good news is that the second half of the weekend looks pretty nice. So once that moves out here late tonight, we'll have a really nice day tomorrow. So kind of looking at our timing graphic here, this is a little dated, but we had that storm chance all the way up until midnight for Mobile, Baldwin counties, areas north. Some of our northern zones do include that higher risk, so we will likely see more coverage and those more severe storms in those places. But again, that threat is we still have the same ingredients in our environment as those in that higher risk. So we can't let our guard down, and we can't downplay that difference in color there. And for Northwest Florida, this looks to be more of a late evening, overnight event. So anywhere from now until about 3 a.m., we have the real meat of those storms moving through those areas there. So definitely be sure that you have a plan in place in the instance of any storms, but we'll kind of touch on that here more in a minute. So like I said a little bit earlier, if you've been outside at all today, it has been quite windy. We do have a wind advisory in effect until midnight. That is ahead of those storms. We've seen winds out of the southeast this afternoon sustained anywhere between 20-25 miles per hour. That says gust up to 40 miles per hour expected, but that has exceeded our expectations so far. I think the highest gust that we've gotten report of is, 52 miles per hour in Mobile. So that's the highest wind gust today so far. So if we're seeing wind gust up to 52 miles per hour before we even see a thunderstorm, that just tells you how significant our wind threat is as we go into the evening and really start to see those storms move in. And let's remember that wind can be just as catastrophic and damaging as a tornado. We know straight line winds can do just as much damage as an EF0, EF1 tornado. Those kind of winds can, just be just as significant as a tornado. So there's kind of a look at the gusts that we've seen so far today, up to about 50 miles per hour. Yeah, is really what we're seeing, outside of those storms out there right now. Still breezy if you've been outside at all today. Even when I was driving into work, I thought I was going to run my car off the road because it was so windy. So if you can stay off the roads, stay outside, not be outside, stay inside for the rest of the day, I recommend that. So this is going on, anytime from now until the overnight hours, and emphasizing the chance for strong tornadoes, winds 70 or more miles per hour possible within stronger storms, and we could see hail up to about 2 inches in diameter within any storms that do develop. So that risk is very significant. So in the instance of a tornado warning, when your phones start going off, we want to know where our safe place is in our house. So that would be the most interior room of your home, away from windows and on the lowest floor. So, if you live in an apartment complex, me myself, I live on the 4th floor of an apartment complex. That's not where I would want to be tonight. I would make plans to be on the lowest floor, downstairs somewhere. If you don't have a safe place like this in your home, you want to make plans to be somewhere that does. Maybe, phone a friend, find a shelter if you're locally, and just make sure you have on a good pair of shoes, and something to cover your head is always a good idea as well. So all of those things are super important. Whether you need it or not, it's better to be safe than sorry, because again, we're just emphasizing that threat is there. We're not saying that we'll see tornadoes all over the place tonight. We're saying that it is very possible that could happen. I want to go over real quick the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch is kind of what we're seeing start to move into the area right now. So if you get an alert on your phone here in the next few minutes, it'll be probably for a tornado watch. That doesn't mean that there's a tornado on the ground. That just means that the conditions are really prime, and the conditions in the environment are there to support a tornado as storms do start to move in. So that'll be the first alert that you get on your phone. Now, after you get that alert, anything after that is when we want to take action. So a tornado warning means that there is actively a tornado on the ground. You want to be getting into that safe place. So just be sure you have that plan, and make sure you have your phone volume turned all the way up. Make sure those alerts are turned on. Ask Siri to turn them on for you. Make sure you have multiple ways to get those alerts. You can download our weather app. That'll give you all those warnings. I know Apple has the automated ones with that as well. So just make sure you have more than one way to receive warnings. Make sure those phones are charged up just in case there is a loss of power, because again, that wind is blowing. We could see trees falling down onto power lines. So just be prepared for anything is just really what I'm saying there. So we'll take one more look at the radar real quick, and then I'm going to hop off here and get ready for our show. That starts here soon. But before that, we'll just glance at the radar one more time, see where we're at. Okay, yeah, so things still look pretty dry for us in Northwest Florida at least. Starting to see some isolated showers move into Mobile County. That's gradually creeping into northern Baldwin, and we'll just continue to see that as we go into the evening. And this is more of a broken line of storms. We noticed that this line isn't as uniform as squall lines associated with frontal systems typically are, and this is why that tornado threat is a little more elevated than it typically would be. And with broken lines of storms like that, that's what kind of supports that supercell development, the kind of cells that produce those really strong long track tornadoes. Whereas those more uniform straight line, of storms that move through pretty quickly, those are more of those that produce those quick spin up tornadoes that just kind of spin up for a few minutes, then go back down and they're really weak. So this is just the difference between, a typical scenario that we're usually left with. So just be weather aware as we head into the next several hours. Again, this will be mainly a late evening overnight event for us here locally. So just don't let your guard down, and we'll be live on air at 6 o'clock. I think we're also going to try to live stream our newscast here on Facebook, so you can tune in there as well. But in the meantime, again, just stay weather aware. Be sure you're staying up to date on the forecast, have those alerts turned on, and we'll be here with you all night long in the case of any warnings. So for now, I'm going to hop off, but we'll see you guys at 6. Off, but we'll see you guys. guys at 6.